Hi YouTube! If you're here for the English part of this video, feel free to skip this first part and go immediately into the timestamp where I talk about this team in English. This first part is going to be in Spanish, so if you want to skip it, feel free to go to the timestamp below. Chicos y chicas, este es un video especial porque sé que les había dicho de que no iba a hacer contenido de Series 12 hasta que empiece Series 12 oficialmente el 1 de febrero, que curiosamente es mi cumpleaños el 1 de febrero. No lo iba a hacer, pero este fin de semana que pasó fue un fin de semana distinto, un fin de semana diferente en donde acontecieron algunas cosas que me siento por supuesto obligado a traer ese tipo de contenido acá. Si ustedes me han seguido en Twitter seguramente saben de lo que estoy hablando. Si ustedes no me siguen en Twitter, pues que esperan, aquí arriba están mis redes sociales para que puedan hacerlo. También un agradecimiento a mi organización Genesis Gaming. Ellos son un team de eSports que firmaron conmigo. Yo firmé el año pasado a finales de año con ellos y en el 2022 voy a estar jugando para ellos, si Dios lo permite, en el circuito oficial de Pokémon. Así que gracias a ellos también por apoyarme. Y bueno, vamos a hablar de esto. Entonces, como les decía, hubo un torneo este fin de semana. Fue un fin de semana diferente, distinto. Hay una organización que se llama Victory Road que hacen organizan torneos competitivos. Ellos son de Europa, específicamente de España, creo que es su matriz. Y hacen torneos, es una organización muy reconocida en la comunidad. Hola Incinerador, ¿por qué estás dormido? Vamos a despertarlo. Despiértese, no quiere despertarse. Ahí está, cansado él. Cansado de haber jugado tanto el fin de semana. Jugué, si no estoy mal, jugué como unos 13 o 14 sets de Pokémon. Fueron bastantes, pero bueno. Entonces, esta organización hizo un torneo el fin de semana y yo decidí participar. Ese torneo reunió a más de 540 jugadores alrededor del mundo, chicos. Un torneo inmenso, uno de los más grandes que se han hecho en la historia online. De los más grandes, no el más grande, creo que hubo uno más grande o un par más grandes, pero en la actualidad al menos es el más grande de Series 12, de Series 11, de todos. 540 personas fue muchísimo. Y bueno, pues yo decidí participar y este es el equipo que usé. Las reglas fueron Series 12. Series 12 es algo que como tal en el canal aún no hablamos mucho, porque como digo lo iba a hacer a partir del 1 de febrero, pero muchos de ustedes quizás ya lo saben, otros no. En la Series 12 se permite el uso de dos legendarios principales o restricted. Ahí están los dos que elegí, Zacian y Kyogre. Y bueno, pues en ese sentido se arman los equipos alrededor de ellos y eso fue lo que decidí usar. Este equipo que usé tiene un trasfondo. El trasfondo es que este torneo era el sábado a las 9 de la mañana y era viernes, el día anterior, 11:30 de la noche, hora de Ecuador, y yo no sabía ni siquiera si iba a jugar o no, y no tenía equipo. ¿Por qué? Porque durante la semana paso muy ocupado con trabajo, hago coaching todos los días, estoy a full con eso, aparte que tengo otros proyectos donde estoy trabajando. Entonces no había tenido tiempo para decidir qué mismo iba a usar, ni siquiera para decidir si iba a jugar ni practicar nada. Entonces me desocupé un poco más o menos a las 10 de la noche del viernes de lo que estaba trabajando y ahí tuve una hora y media de relax un poco con mi familia, con mi esposa, estábamos viendo unas cosas por ahí y luego me dice, ¿vas a jugar? Y yo le digo, no sé si voy a jugar mañana, pero ¿sabes qué? Voy a sentarme en mi computador, subí a las 11:30 de la noche, me senté en el computador aquí donde estoy y dije, ok, vamos a hacer un equipo. Y una de las cosas que a mí siempre me ha gustado desde que empecé en el mundo de Pokémon es el team building. El team building es una de las cosas que me apasiona, me considero un meticuloso y muy estudioso de todos los detalles de un equipo y me encanta el team building. Y bueno, los resultados están a la vista. En el 2017 yo logré el tercer puesto en el mundial, en el mundo. En el 2018 campeón en el mundo. Y ahora pues no tenía nada digamos de información previa, pero decidí sentarme porque tenía las ganas. Y bueno, como dato curioso, a veces me resulta un poco gracioso de que cuando estamos haciendo los monotypes, que se han convertido en un desafío también para mí, para probar esas habilidades de team building que tengo. Cuando estamos haciendo los monotypes, aquí hay gente que me dice, te falta esto, te falta aquello, debes hacer así, debes lidiar así, contra Relligas yo lidio así. Me causa algo de gracia la verdad, porque yo digo, yo soy un estudioso y un loco del team building y me dicen como que está mal y bueno, yo los respeto por supuesto, pero me pareció un dato curioso a mencionar. Y cuando hice este equipo, obviamente yo me tengo mucha confianza en el team building y dije, vamos a hacerlo. Casi son las 12 de la noche, pero lo voy a hacer. Me siento con confianza. Y bueno, así es como nace este equipo. Vamos a pasar inmediatamente a Showdown, chicos, para explicarles un poco el trasfondo de cómo ya en detalles esto de aquí. Vamos a Showdown por un momento. Y esto empieza así. Empieza acá. Como ven, hay un Zacian Calyrex Shadow. Una semana antes, yo jugué un torneo de mi gran amigo Neme, que si estás viendo, un abrazo. Jugué un torneo con él que él organizó, donde hubieron no me acuerdo, 100 algo de participantes. Y decidí usar Sassian Calyrex Shadow. Era el primer torneo, recién para empezar, Sassian Calyrex Shadow. Puse a Incineroar, a Tundurus, a Whimsicott, como pueden ver aquí. Era Life for Calyrex Shadow, Safety Goggles Incineroar, Assault Vest Tundurus, Focus Ash Whimsicott y Lumberry Landorus. Este fue el primer equipo que usé de Series 12. No me fue mal, pero no me fue tan bien. Logré ponerme 4-1, necesitaba ganar una más y perdí la ronda 6 y la ronda 7 y quedé eliminado, no clasifiqué al Top Cut en aquella vez. Una de las cosas que me arrepentí mucho fue no haberle puesto Taunt a Whimsicott, que en mi batalla de ronda 6 contra la persona que terminó siendo campeón, me hubiera servido muchísimo con Taunt. Yo creo que esa pelea la ganaba sin problema, porque tenía que tauntearle a su Tundurus, que no lo pude tauntear y él me paralizó y luego yo no me pude mover. Bueno, cosas que uno va aprendiendo y dije... ¿Por qué le quité Taunt? Me reprochaba a mí mismo. Porque le había quitado Taunt. Él tenía Taunt y yo se lo quité. Y le puse Cotton Sport, que no lo usé nunca en el torneo. Y también otra que me arrepentí es haberle quitado el Mod Shot a Calyrex. Le puse Substitute. Mod Shot me hubiera dado sin problemas la victoria en la ronda 1 contra un jugador de Panamá. Y como no tenía Mod Shot, no pude llevarme a su Inci. Entonces, fueron cosas que, digamos, quise hacer apuestas. Igual no había podido practicar casi nada. Y luego, pues, por distintos factores no pude ganar. Aparte, como digo, en la ronda 6, no solo que me paralizó, sino que no me moví 2 turnos claves, uno en el juego 1, otro en el juego 3. Entonces, de eso se aprende. Dije, ahora que voy a sentarme, dije, a ver, ¿cómo hacemos aquí? Voy a reemplazar a Calyrex por Groudon. Esto les digo a las 11:30 de la noche. Empiezo. Groudon. Vamos a mantener a Inci, vamos a mantener a Tundurus y vamos a reemplazar a Venusaur porque al meter a Groudon, pues creo que... Perdón, a reemplazar a Whimsicott, al meter a Groudon, creo que Venusaur lo hace bastante bien. Por obvias razones, por el sol. Y como quitamos a Whimsicott, voy a poner un Porygon para darle Speed Control. Por el lado, digamos, de Trick Room, no por el lado de Tailwind. Por el lado, este Tundurus es Defiant, por supuesto. Entonces acá podíamos darle Airstream también. Entonces, así empecé. Comencé a pensar en las cosas que estaban bien y a pensar en las cosas que quizás quería cambiar para probar otras. Porque al final de cuentas esto es early meta, estamos recién empezando, no hay un meta formado. Entonces dije, vamos a ver esto. Después me puse a pensar y dije, a ver, Groudon y Venusaur. No sé si quiero usar Groudon y Venusaur, ¿por qué? Porque Groudon es un Pokémon que me gusta mucho, pero es inconsistente en el sentido de que falla sus ataques. Y Venusaur también es un Pokémon inconsistente muchas veces porque falla sus ataques. El Sleep Powder sobre todo, el Leaf Storm. Y conociendo mi suerte dije, no quiero. Entonces de ahí cambié por Kyogre. Dije, a ver, hagamos el cambio. Mantengamos a Sassian, mantengamos a Inci. Cambiemos a Groudon por Kyogre, ¿ya? Y luego, como entra Kyogre, Tundurus puede quedarse también, no es que tiene que irse, pero me gusta más Zapdos. Zapdos es un Pokémon que creo que con Kyogre va muy bien, entonces le voy a poner a Zapdos. Y de ahí, bueno, Venusaur se va porque se fue Groudon o se puede quedar. Bueno, Venusaur se puede quedar, se beneficia también de la lluvia de Kyogre en el sentido de que Kyogre se encarga de los Pokémon de fuego. Y me sirve como un check de sol también, dije. Y como estaba Pitu, dije, ¿será que ponemos un Pitu y hacemos al Kyogre lento para Trick Room? Dije, no, el Kyogre lo quiero rápido porque... me gustaría probarlo Scarf. Y Pitu vamos a cambiarlo por Ferrothorn para tener una respuesta mejor a Trick Room, dije sí. Y probé esta idea. El Kyogre justamente era Scarf. El Incineroar era Safety Goggles. Se mantuvo tal como estaba en el otro equipo. El Venusaur Sash. Y Ferrothorn lo puse con Iron Defense y Leech Seed. No se lo alcanza a ver ahí, lamentablemente. Déjenme lo muevo un poquito. Ahí está Ferrothorn. Iron Defense, Body Press, Leech Seed y Protect. Ese es la segunda versión del equipo. Y lo diseñé y dije, listo. Lo entrené en consola y dije, listo, vamos. Me voy a registrar en el torneo de Victory Road y resulta que veo, justo entro a Twitter para buscar la cuenta de Victory Road y buscar el link para registrarme. Justo entro a Twitter y habían habido un torneo así el viernes en la noche, un torneo rápido de Series 12, habían puesto la foto de los resultados. Y me siento ahí y digo, a ver, antes de ir allá, veamos cómo le jugaría esto. y comencé a tirar en mi cabeza, a hacer teoría, a ver cómo le jugaría a esto que está en esta foto, cómo le jugaría a esto, y no me gustaba la forma en que estaba planteando los juegos en mi cabeza. Y dije, no, es que no es consistente eso, no tengo, me falta quizás una respuesta más a esto. Y después dije, no, ¿saben qué? Regresemos nomás y vamos a poner aquí de nuevo, y fue como terminó saliendo este equipo. Cambié a Venusaur. Bueno, obviamente Venusaur estaba acá, sino que lo moví para que puedan ver a Ferrothorn, que no sé por qué no me dejó ver acá. Cambié a Venusaur por Whimsicott y dije, no, necesito Tailwind. Creo que con Tailwind, dije, es una de las cosas que me gustó de la primera versión con Calyrex Shadow. Tailwind con Helping Hand era muy bueno con Zacian. ¿Por qué la tengo que cambiar? Dije, no, no la tengo que cambiar. Vamos a volver a Whimsicott. Al Kyogre ya no lo voy a hacer Scarf entonces, porque una de las razones por las que los quería Scarf era para tener algo de poder controlar el campo. O sea, no el campo me refiero al terreno, sino de poder controlar la batalla, porque no tengo forma de pasar sino a no ser por Airstream. Entonces quería que el Kyogre sea más rápido que la mayoría de cosas, obviamente menos que Regieleki. Pero dije, no, volvamos al Tailwind, mantengamos al Ferro y al Kyogre hagámoslo Mystic Water. Pero como he quitado al Venusaur, al Ferro le voy a hacer unos cambios. Y es así como termina saliendo la idea de este equipo, chicos. Vamos a hablar rápidamente de cada uno de los detalles. Zacian, Pokémon que no necesita explicación para nada. Muy fuerte. Lo único es que en este formato, me parece a mí, Playrough es muy bueno. Puedes seguir poniendo sustituto, puedes seguir poniendo Sword Dance, pero Playrough es muy bueno para pegar a todos los nuevos dragones que aparecen. Eso ayuda bastante en algunos matchups. Asimismo lo tenía en la variante con Calyrex Shadow, en el primer borrador de este equipo, con Playrough. Lo terminé usando Behemoth Blade, Playrough, Sacred Sword Protect. Esta es la distribución de EVs. Tiene naturaleza Adamant, 148 de HP, 124 de ataque, 4 de defensa, 12 de defensa especial, 220 de velocidad. Un poco explico la razón de este EV Spread rápidamente. Quería un Zacian bulky, pero rápido también. No lo quería usar Jolly porque quiero que pegue. Hay muchas cosas que Zacian Jolly 252 no llega a llevarse porque el meta se ha adaptado a eso desde Series 11 incluso, y hay Pokémon que están eveados para tener rol favorables o incluso vivir Behemoth Blade. Entonces yo dije, no, quiero usarlo Adamant y voy a subirle un poquito, y le subí esos 4 puntos más de 222 a 226 para que esos 4 puntos se vuelven 6 considerando la habilidad, para romper un poco esos cálculos que mucha gente tiene. Quería que pegue un poco más. Y en cuanto a la speed, pues la speed 194 es lo que necesitas para pasar a Venusaur Max Speed en Sol luego de un Airstream. Entonces usé ese como punto de partida. Y eso lo subí a 195 y después se lo subí a 196 para hacer Speed Creep, por si hay otros Zacians que tenían la misma idea que yo y estaban en 195. Y con 148 HP y 2 en defensa especial, me pareció que era un bulk bastante aceptable. Me hubiera gustado tener un poco más, pero creo que hasta ahí está aceptable, porque eso te permite vivir un Astral Rush de Calyrex Shadow Life Orb a +1 o en su defecto con Helping Hand. Eso lo vive siempre, si el Calyrex no es Modest. Lo vive siempre. Además que te da un rol bastante favorable. Creo que es 43% de vivir un Water Spout Mystic Water. Pero el Water Spout tiene que estar a full vida y usualmente vas a pegarle al Kyogre primero. Eres más rápido y tienes Tailwind. Así que ese escenario es muy poco común que se dé, pero si se llegara a dar, el bulk te ayuda también ahí. Y por supuesto es un bulk general que te va a ayudar contra otras cosas, para seguir teniendo resistencia ante algunos escenarios donde te pueda permitir mantenerte en el campo por un poco más. Ese es el spread de este Zacian, un Zacian rápido, no tanto, pero a su vez algo bulky. Y luego pasamos a Kyogre Mystic Water, que tiene una variante Timid con Water Spout, Origin Pulse, Ice Beam Protect. No necesita Scald, creo que Origin Pulse. Podrán aquí pensar, pero no me decías que Groudon era inconsistente por P-Blades y pones Origin Pulse en Kyogre. Por supuesto que también Origin Pulse es inconsistente, pero Kyogre tiene Water Spout, que no lo es uno de los mejores movimientos del juego. Así que usualmente tratas de posicionar a Kyogre para que tire Water Spout, y Origin Pulse te queda en casos en donde por supuesto no tienes otra opción, que es muy diferente con Groudon, donde Groudon literal no tienes algo equivalente a Water Spout. Él aprende Eruption incluso, pero Groudon lamentablemente no es Primal, así que no es tipo fuego en esta forma, así que no le sirve tanto. Entonces, en ese sentido, de ahí quería un Kyogre rápido para el Mirror, Max Speed, pero le di un poquito de bulk. Este 28-12 es una distribución un poquito de bulk, que lo que te permite es vivir un Play Rough de Zacian Jolly Max Ataque siempre. estaba tentado en ponerle un poco más de bulk para que Behemoth Blade quizás sea un 3-hit KO o un rol muy favorable para que sea un 3-hit KO, pero de momento dije no lo siento tan necesario. Solo el Play Rough sí, porque había que invertir bastante para el Behemoth Blade. De momento Play Rough me pareció suficiente benchmark y el Kyogre sigue pegando bastante fuerte, por supuesto, con la lluvia, con el Misty Water y con la opción de Helping Hand de Whimsicott, que ya iremos para allá. Entonces esta es mi pareja de Restricted. Luego, por supuesto, un Incineroar que ayude contra ciertas cosas. ¿Qué ayuda Incineroar en un equipo de lluvia? Pues contra Pokémon de planta. ¿Cuál es la principal debilidad de Kyogre? Los Pokémon de planta. Los eléctricos también. Pero en cuanto a Pokémon de planta, como ven, todo el equipo resiste a planta. Zacian resiste a planta, Incineroar, Zapdos, Whimsicott y Ferros resisten a planta. Así que un Rillaboom aquí no nos debería molestar tanto. Pero Incineroar también tenía otra función. La función de Incineroar, además de dar balance defensivo, que ya todos lo sabemos, con Fake Out, Parting Shot, Intimidate, es también ayudar con el matchup de Trick Room mejor. Contra Calyrex Ice, contra cosas que molesten en Trick Room. Incluso algunos Glastrier por si salen por ahí, otros Ferrothorn. Entonces es la idea de Incineroar, tiene que ser un Pokémon bulky. El Eevee Spread, Incineroar es un Pokémon muy flexible, que puede funcionar de distintas formas. El Eevee Spread tú lo puedes personalizar como quieras. Yo me terminé decantando por este Eevee Spread de Incineroar. La defensa aquí te permite sobrevivir un Close Combat de Zacian, Yoli, neutro. O sea, luego que lo intimides, él se pone +1, pero si lo intimidas lo pones neutro. El Close Combat no te debilita si el Zacian es Yoli Max Attack. Aparte que te da un buen rol también para el Sacred Sword de Zacian Yoli a +1. Una cosa es Close Combat a neutro y otra cosa es Sacred Sword a +1. El Sacred Sword a +1 es un rol más favorable al Zacian, pero sigue siendo un rol aceptable. No quise darle tanto tampoco, y de ahí quise que siga siendo defensivo especial. Lo que me propuse aquí es primero que viva un Life for Max Quake de Venusaur, eso lo hace de sobra, incluso si el Venusaur es Modest, eso lo hace de sobra. Pero también estaba ahí en el tema del Weather Ward y dije, si me salen Charizards, quiero que el rol sea bastante a mi favor de un Airstream Life Orb de Charizard que tenga Hurricane, o sea que el Airstream sea más fuerte en Sol, por si necesito a Incineroar, porque uno puede decir, no, pero tienes Kyogre, de que Charizard no te debería molestar, pero si el rival posiciona su clima, puede ser molesto, y ahí es donde necesitaría que Incineroar viva el Airstream para poder salir y pivotear con Parting Shot. Entonces por eso le puse esta defensa especial. Me parece que el Airstream Life Orb de Hurricane en Sol, con Solar Power, es como un 31% de que te debilita el Incineroar, entonces tienes casi un 70% de probabilidad de vivir. No lo hice más alto el rol porque tampoco quería que sea un Incineroar tan lento. Entonces, a veces en los Eevee Spreads hay que negociar contigo mismo. Entonces le di un poquito más de velocidad del Incineroar lento, que el Incineroar lento usualmente tiene 12 o 20 de EVs, 28. Le di un poquito más para creepearlo, pero tampoco quería darle más porque yo he usado Incineroar de todas formas. He usado con 100, con 116, he usado Max Speed, he usado Turbo Incineroar, yo le he usado de todo Incineroar. Pero aquí algunos podrán decir tienes Throw Chop, no te conviene más tener un Incineroar rápido. Conviene mucho más tener un Incineroar rápido cuando tienes Throw Chop para pegarle a otros Incineroars y que no te puedan tirar Snarl Parting Shot. Pero como es un equipo con Kyogre, no me interesaba ser tan rápido para otros Incineroars, porque al ver a Kyogre ya los Incineroars se la van a pensar dos veces. Entonces no lo sentí tan importante, pero sí quería darle un poquito más de speed para ser más rápido que el Incineroar promedio bajo. Ya, es un poco la explicación aquí. Y también, bueno, en Tailwind esto te sirve sin ningún problema para pasar a los bases 100, como Charizard, como Zapdos, y poder tirarles un Parting Shot antes de que ataquen. Zapdos, Dynamax principal de este equipo, una variante muy sencilla, Life Orb, 4 de HP, 252, 252. No me interesa subirle el HP para que llegue a 169, que el recoil de Life Orb, nada. Esos son mitos que la gente les dice. Tú no necesitas llegar a 169 para optimizar el daño de Life Orb. Eso es un error de concepto que mucha gente a veces tiene. Puedes ponerlo si quieres, pero también aquí Zapdos pierde 16 de Life Orb. Si le pones 169, perdería 16 de Life Orb también. O sea, no estás optimizando la cantidad de recoil que tienes. Lo que sí es que estás haciendo que tienes la mayor cantidad de HP antes de que el recoil sea un punto más, que en muchos casos no importa, porque los daños acá sí lo necesitaba que sea max special attack. No podía darme el lujo de bajarle algo aquí. Dije, no, se va así y punto. Y spread sencillo. Whimsicott, max special attack también, max speed. y 4 en HP. Este tiene... me olvidaba del Zapdos. Le puse Heatwave por obvias razones. Es un equipo de lluvia. Necesito tener forma de pegarle a Ferrothorn. Por si, obviamente, Zacian o Incineroar no son suficientes. Además que te puede servir en otros escenarios para pegarle un Zacian, por ejemplo, con Max Flare, si es que no tienes la lluvia. O quitarle la lluvia a otros Kyogre si es que lo necesitaras, qué sé yo. Pero me pareció que no necesitaba nada como Weather Ball ni nada. Un Zapdos ofensivo que pegue. Y de ahí Whimsicott, pues es un Pokémon que tiene su función de soportear. Moonblast, Tailwind, Helping Hand para incrementar la fuerza de estos dos. Estos dos con Helping Hand son una máquina de tomar knockouts. En serio, es una de las cosas que me gustaba con Zacian. Helping Hand Behemoth Blade está completamente roto, chicos. Completamente roto. Y también con Water Spout o incluso con Max Geyser si haces Max al Kyogre. Helping Hand es una de las razones por las que puse a Whimsicott y no puse a Tornados. Whimsicott es más rápido y tiene Helping Hand. Tornados no tiene Helping Hand. Y ese pequeño gran detalle es algo que a mí me parecía muy importante como para dejarlo pasar. El Helping Hand era algo que yo quería plasmar en este equipo. Así que por eso está el Helping Hand aquí. Y es un taunt más rápido que Tundurus, más rápido que Tornados. Así que los puedo tauntear sin problema. Este movimiento lo extrañé muchísimo en la primera variante. Que como digo, hubiera clasificado sin problema si hubiera tenido taunt, creo yo. Pero no lo tenía. Y ahora se lo puse ya. Está con taunt. Y finalmente Ferrothorn es un Pokémon que está pensado para el matchup de Trick Room contra Kyogre, Calyrex, Ice. Lo pensé así, me sirve muy bien. Y contra otras cosas como que quizás me podía encontrar, como Seismitoad, como Kyogre incluso. ¿Por qué? Porque decidí quitarle Leech Seed a la variante Body Press estándar, le quité Leech Seed y le puse Power Whip porque me pareció que era importante. ¿Por qué? Porque es un equipo con Kyogre Zacian. Un Gastrodon bien jugado ante estos dos es muy molesto. Play Rough en Zacian ayuda contra Gastrodon, por supuesto, pero no es suficiente. Entonces dije, Ferrothorn con Power Whip puede ser una muy buena tech para llevarme a los Gastrodon, para ayudar con los Lapras, para ayudar con otros Kyogre, con los Seismitoads. Y tengo que sacrificar Leech Seed y en ese momento dije, no hay problema sacrificar Leech Seed. He jugado muchos Pokémon con Body Press, Iron Defense, ahora que estoy haciendo los Monotypes, y ninguno de ellos tenía Leech Seed y los he usado sin problema. Así que no siento que necesite Leech Seed. Por supuesto, en algunos matchups Leech Seed va a hacer falta. Como contra Palkia, por ejemplo, Leech Seed hace falta ahí para tener esa recuperación, pero estoy dispuesto a hacer este intercambio. Entonces se fue con Body Press, Iron Defense, Power Whip, Protect. Leftovers, el EV Spread de aquí, podrán verlo algo raro, pero es bastante sencillo de entender. El punto de salto en defensa, quiero que sea un Ferrothorn que pegue, es aquí en 148. Le puse un puntito más, bueno, porque a mí me gustan los números pares, pero sobre todo porque un puntito más significa, si te estás tirando Iron Defense, significa mucho más. Es decir, de 187 que estaba, ya, el doble, luego de un Iron Defense, tu defensa se va a convertir en 374. Si tú tienes 188, se va a convertir en 376. Entonces son 2 puntos de diferencia. Entonces cada puntito aquí puede cambiarte muchas cosas. Lo decidí poner en un puntito más porque quería darle 20 de speed. Se podrán preguntar, ¿por qué tienes speed en Ferrothorn? Primero por el mirror. Incluso hasta pensé ponerle 28 o 36, pero por el mirror. Hay Ferrothorns, yo no tengo Trick Room, así que tener un Ferrothorn Min Speed no me hacía para nada sentido. Y si me salía otro Ferrothorn que tenga 4 o 12, pues tener un poquito más de Speed te ayuda en el mirror de Ferrothorn contra Ferrothorn. Porque me ha pasado y ya una vez perdí porque el Ferrothorn de mi rival era más rápido que el mío y yo tenía un Ferrothorn con 4 de speed. Así que dije, le vamos a poner 20. Le quise poner 28, un poquito más, pero dije, no, con 20 creo que es suficiente y el resto se lo ponemos en Special Defense, que te ayuda con algunos cálculos especiales. Nada del otro mundo, un Ferrothorn consistente pensado para eso. Este es el equipo, chicos. Este es el equipo con el que logré el segundo lugar en un torneo de más de 540 jugadores. Para mí, muy pero muy contento de poder traerles este tipo de contenido. Y si están esperando el código rental, pues déjenme decirles que el código rental está aquí. Nada más y nada menos, damas y caballeros, este va a ser el código rental para los que quieran usar este equipo en algún torneo Best of One o cuando ya empiece el ladder. Este es el código rental con mi Helping Hand Dogfish, como lo he llamado, el perro con el pescado por Zacian y Kyogre, por supuesto. Helping Hand Dogfish, este es el código rental para ustedes, chicos, para que lo puedan usar. Ahora nos vamos a ir a la parte en inglés. Así que, como les dije al inicio, si se quieren quedar, quédense. Y si ya no quieren, pues les agradezco muchísimo por haber estado en este video conmigo el día de hoy, chicos y chicas. Hey guys, if you're here for the English part, this is the moment you have been waiting for. My name is Paul Reyes. Thank you so much for being here. I know my channel is usually in Spanish, but I really appreciate you taking their time to be here today with me. So as you guys probably know, this past weekend there was a tournament, online tournament that Victory Road organization hosted. This was the first Series 12 tournament. Not the first, technically. We did have the first tournament like a week before. It was hosted by my good friend Nemesis from Chile. And shout out to him, by the way. He is a really, really good Pokemon player and also tournament organizer. But yeah, this was the first like global or worldwide tournament. Let's call it that way. Hey, Incinerator, why are you sleeping? Like that's not good. Please, Incinerator, wake up. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, basically I participated in this tournament and I managed to finish. Hey, I managed to finish second place out of like 540 players. That was a lot of players. I think it's one of the biggest tournaments ever. Not the biggest, actually. I think they're like probably the Champions Cup had like more than 1,000 players last year or 2 years ago. I don't remember, but yeah, it's a really big tournament. Like 500 players is a lot considering we are not like playing official tournaments, just like online. So yeah, this is the team that I use basically. It was Series 12 rules. So the combination that I decided to use is Seishan with Kyogre. By the way, if you call this guy Seishan, I'm gonna apologize. I usually call it Sashin. I know there's like a controversy sometimes. Like to me, Sashin is the official way to pronounce this. So sometimes I can confuse because I have people that call it Seishan, others that call it Sashin, but I'm gonna try to call it Sashin from now on. So Sashin here, a shiny variant. Like obviously, it's in my opinion is better. Like not competitively, but it's more beautiful, I guess. Right? Is that correct, Sashin? Are you there? Okay. Yeah, so this is the team that I use, guys. So I'm going to be explaining a little bit the details of the EV spreads and how this team was built. So fun fact, I basically decided to play this tournament last minute. This tournament was hosted on Saturday, 9 a.m. my time, like local time, EST. And I remember it was Friday, 11:30 p.m., the day before. And I wasn't sure if I was going to participate or not. So I was there and I decided to just basically sit down in front of my computer from my team builder and like say, okay, do I play tomorrow? If that's the case, I should build a team. You might ask yourself, how can you do that? Like, why didn't you like build a team during the week? Isn't like Friday too late? And yes, it is too late, but the problem is that I just didn't have time. I've been working a lot, working on some projects, also doing coaching a lot, and I unfortunately didn't have the time to build a team during the week because I was too busy. Also, shout out to my organization, Genesis Gaming. These guys are awesome. This is an esports team. I signed with them last year, at the end of the year, and these guys are going to be my basically my family for this 2022. I'm gonna be playing for them. Shout out to them. They are awesome. Check all the social media is gonna be in the description down below. Yeah, so after that quick parenthesis, so basically I decided to build a team and I sat down and I took inspiration from the first team that I used on the Nemesis Cup tournament the week before. I participated in that tournament. I used the Calyrex Shadow Sashian core. But it was not bad. I did okay, but unfortunately I lost 2 winning ins because my Whimsicott didn't have taunt and I couldn't taunt my opponent's Prankster Thunders and just paralyzed very important members, and I got fully paralyzed in crucial turns and I lost because of that. And I also misplayed a little bit in the last round because I was a little bit tired. But yeah, that's a different story. Basically I took that as an inspiration for making this team, and I decided to say like, okay, what things worked well from the first team with the Calyrex Shadow Sashian core, and what things didn't work well that I might want to change, which is what I did. I basically took that. The team that I had was Calyrex Shadow, Sashian, Incineroar, Whimsicott, Landers, and Thunderous with Defiant. Actually, let's just go to Showdown. I have that team here. One sec, it's going to be there. So this is the first variant of the team. As you can see, at the bottom, it says Nemesis Cup. Basically, this is the Sasha and Kyrek Shadow, Incineroar, Thunderous, Whimsicott, Landorus team that I used. Pretty standard. I just decided to go with like the all reliable. Sasha is the one that I used, obviously in Series 11. Like it doesn't need any explanation. This mon is really good. I decided to go with like a play rough variant. I think play rough is really good in this Series 12 format. I had to sacrifice substitute. I went with the Kyrek Shadow variant with Psyshock, Astral Barrage, and substitute. I regretted not having Mudshot here in some of the matches. This is the first tournament, by the way. This is not the Victor Road tournament. This is just like the introduction. Incineroar with safety goggles, throw chop, parting shot, fake out, and flare blitz. Thunderous Assault Vest. I decided to go break. I also regretted not having superpower. Break felt okay in theory, but in practice, sometimes it was not as good as I thought. And then Whimsicott. The Nemesis Cup tournament was closed team sheet, so I decided to like try this move here, Coding Spore, because I felt like maybe there are going to be a lot of like Tailwind teams, and Coding Spore is a move that like it's like a better version of Icy Wind per se. Like it lowers the target speed 2 stages instead of 1. It's not a damaging move, so you don't break sashes and whatnot, but it lowers 2 stages. It's like the opposite of Tailwind from the opponent's side of the field, not from your side. And I decided to try this out just for the mirror, but actually I never clicked it other than just once in the entire tournament. So I actually regretted not having Taunt, as I explained it, because it would have helped me immensely in my round 6 match against that Prankster Thunderous. And then Landorus with Swords and Slumberry pre-standard. So I took this as an inspiration, and I sat down, as I said, 11:30 p.m. in my computer. I was like, okay, what can I do to improve this? Kyrek Shadow was not as good as I thought in the first tournament, so I want to try something different. And immediately I was like, okay, let's try Groudon. Like, Groudon, why Groudon? I've been like doing coaching this entire week with other players, and I've been helping them to practice, and most of them have been using Groudon. So it's something that I have used like to some extent. It's not real practice for me, but at least I understand a little bit the upsides and downsides from Groudon. So let's try that, I said. Let's keep Incineroar. Let's keep Thunderous. Thunderous is really good with Sashin, obviously because of Intimidate. You have Defiant. It can also be really good with Groudon, helping with Kyogre, given Airstream. And because we're putting Groudon, I don't think we should go Whimsicott. Let's just put Venusaur. Like let's replace the Grass type. And because we don't have Tailwind, then by putting Venusaur, let's put a P2 so we can have like a hybrid fast plus Trick Room like team. This was the first draft of the team. I sat down and watched it, and I was like, this feels okay, but it doesn't feel consistent to me. Why? Because Groudon can just miss the P-Blades, and that is just not consistent. The set that I had was like Citrus Berry, P-Blades, Rock Slide, Swords Dance, and Protect. So I forgot to put it here. No worries. And this just doesn't feel consistent. Also, Venusaur with Sleep Powder and Chlorophyll. I remember I was thinking on a Sash variant, just like Leaf Storm. And Venusaur is also not that consistent sometimes, like you want to use it as a Sleep Powder bot. Sometimes Sleep Powder can miss a lot, and Leaf Storm as well. Yeah, obviously you can just go for a Dynamax with this guy, but I just didn't feel like relying a lot on P-Blades and Sleep Powders was good enough. And then I was like, no, you know what? I don't want to do this. This is going to be a very big tournament. Like, I remember when I went to Battlefy to check like how many participants were already signed up. It was more than 480 at that point. So this is going to be very big. That's what I said to myself. So I don't want to be reliant on knock-rate moves to win without proper speed control. So, you know what? Let's just scratch Groudon and put Kyogre. I think Kyogre is more consistent, has Water Spout. Yes, it also has Origin Pulse, but you don't have to use Origin Pulse necessarily always. You can just use Water Spout, and obviously Origin Pulse when you don't have like full health or in those kind of scenarios. So I decided to keep Venusaur. I felt like, okay, Venusaur can actually work with Kyogre because obviously Kyogre deals with the fire types that Venusaur does not like, and it's a grass type, so water, grass, and fire type is a very solid core overall, and it has been the case always in VGC. And it can also help me as a sun check. Like if your opponent has Groudon, you have Venusaur, which takes advantage of the sun. So I decided to keep Venusaur. I replaced Thunderous for Zapdos because I feel like Zapdos is probably a little bit better as a Kyogre partner than Thunderous. Thunderous could have stayed. Yes, it's not bad. I'm not saying that. but I felt like Thunder is better as a Groudon partner and Zapdos is better as a Kyogre partner because you have access to Hurricane in the rain and you don't have to like it's a consistent flying type attack outside of Dynamax, whereas Thundurus only has fly as outside of Dynamax. You know what I mean? That's basically the idea. And obviously Zapdos is a little bit bulkier and it's a little bit stronger also. And you don't care about intimidating this team because Kyogre, I mean, you do care because of Sashin, obviously, but Kyogre's special attacker that deals with the most common intimidators, being Landers and Incineroar in the format anyways. And then because I didn't have necessarily a Groudon, I didn't feel the need to keep P2. So I was like, P2 could stay, but I don't want to go with like a very slow Kyogre for Trick Room or something. I feel like I just need a fast Kyogre. I was actually considering even Scarf, which is the idea that I had here. Just putting Scarf because the team does not have like a Sun mode to outspeed the opponent. I have a Venusaur, yeah, but I don't have my own Sun. This team does not have like Tailwind or something. So I wanted Kyogre to be able to outspeed things that can give me more flexibility as a team. And then Ferrothorn was like here to help with Trick Room mainly, and obviously also as a late game win condition with Leech Seed, Iron Defense, Body Press. In the rain, that's really good. And 2 grass types with Kyogre is also really good. And also like the double steal here. And then that was a team. I think this was like probably around 1 a.m. That I finished this team, like the concept behind it, the EV spreads and whatnot, and I had a lot of this months already like built in game. Like the Sashin was the same that I used on the Kyogre Shadow team, the Incineroar was the same. I had a Zapdos, it's just max. So, and I had a Ferrothorn that I had used before. I just had to tweak the EVs a little bit, and I had a Venusaur just max also. So I just trained the Kyogre a little bit, tweaked the EVs, tweaked the Ferrothorn, and I was like, okay, this is it. And I logged in on my Twitter, basically trying to find the link, the Battlefy link from the Victory Road's Twitter account. And then when I did that and just logged into Twitter, the first thing that I saw on the homepage on Twitter was on my timeline was like a picture of a tournament that happened on the Friday. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Before getting into the Victory Road Twitter account, let's just watch a little bit this teams. Let's just like give a look to this and see how I would probably approach these games. Like, let's do some like exercise like in your mind. And I sat down and watched the teams like, okay, how would I approach this? It's not too good. I would probably prefer to have Tailwind or this. How would I approach this other team that like finished like second place? I could approach it this way. I just don't feel that good with Venusaur like having to rely on a Sleep Powder. If they do this, so most of the matchups, like obviously this is just theorizing things, were not too bad but not too great when I did that. So I was like, you know what, why do I have to keep Venusaur? Like, why don't I just go Whimsicott? I might just need Tailwind here. Tailwind would make things like way easier. And I just basically went back to the team builder and said like, you know what, let's just scratch Venusaur. I wanted to try something with Venusaur, but I don't think it's necessary for now. I just want to prioritize consistency. And Tailwind with Helping Hand and Sashin on the first version with Kyogre Shadow was something really good that I did enjoy a lot. So I was like, why don't I just keep it? Like, I can just keep it. And I just basically scratched Venusaur for Whimsicott, kept the other 5, but I changed the Kyogre from Choice Scarf set to just a Mystic Water because obviously by having Tailwind, you don't need to be Scarf anymore. And with Helping Hand and Mystic Water, this thing hits like a truck. And obviously Sashin also does. Like Helping Hand with Behemoth Blade is absolutely broken. It was one of the main things that I liked from the first team that I had here. I wanted to implement that this time around. The reason why I didn't go Kyogre immediately and I just like try Groudon is because I thought a lot of people was going to use Kyogre Groudon, so Sashin. So I wanted to counter that initially. That was my first intention, hence why I had like the Groudon, Thunder's, Venusaur. But then after I analyzed the consistency part of this, I just decided to go to Kyogre anyways. But that was like a little bit the reason why I didn't go Kyogre like in the first place. But I decided to just like go back to this Whimsicott idea, put Kyogre, put a Mystic Water set, and because I got rid of the Venusaur, I wanted to have a grass type move on Ferrothorn, so I got rid of Leech Seed. So that's how this team basically was built. So now I'm going to talk about the details of the EV spread really fast and the sets. Sashin has Behemoth Blade, Player of Sacred Sword, and Protect. Substitute can also be good on Sasha, obviously, but I feel like Play Rough is really, really good in this format, especially with Kyogre, because it allows you to hit Palkia. It allows you to hit like some dragons that can be a problem for a Kyogre, and it's just very good in general, like AV, Veltal, like other Zapdos, like Gastrodon, you can hit it for neutral damage, like that is a stab. Secret Sword is also neutral damage, but it's not stab, so I feel like Play Rough was a most to have here, and I feel like also Sacred Sword was a most to have because of things like Ferrothorn, things like Dialga, so I decided to just go with this like 3 attacks, which is basically the first Sasha that I had on the Cataracts Shadow team as well, but I just decided to keep it the way it was. This is a set that I've been using for a while. Let me explain to you really fast the details of these numbers here. You can customize your Sasha in any way you want. That's one of the beauties in Pokemon. You can like customize your Pokemon in any way you want. You're gonna see a bunch of max Pokemon here in this team, by the way. Like Zapdos and Whimsicott are just straightforward 252, 252. But to me, Sasha like had to be this way. I remember I used a very similar Sasha in Series 11, and I just made this slightly faster. So the idea of the speed here, this is like a bulky attacker. I want it to be bulky, but I also want it to be like not that slow. So I want it to be fast, but also not quite like jolly or something like max speed. No, just adamant. And I decided to hit this benchmark because 194 is the speed benchmark you need to outspeed max speed Timid Venusaur in the sun after an Airstream boost. So I do have Airstream. Obviously, I also have Tailwind. I could just go for Tailwind. There are some times where you don't want to bring Tailwind, or you just don't have the option to set it up or whatever. I feel like I want to have the flexibility to decide what I want to do. So having the 194 was at the very least the benchmark I knew I wanted to hit. But because I felt like, okay, that's a pretty obvious thing, like maybe other people would do the same, I wanted to speed creep that, and that's how I basically decided to hit 196. I could have done just 195, but just a little bit more. Like speed creeping is never too much. So then Adamant Nature, obviously, I could just go for like a 92 Sasha with Adamant. I think that's the same as a Jolly Max attack, but I decided to increase the attack a little bit. The reason being, I feel like Sasha is so dominant in every format it is allowed to be in. So most people are aware of how powerful Sasha is, and they EV'd their defensive mons, or like any mon with defensive investment, to have favorable rolls or just guaranteed surviving a Jolly Max attack Behemoth Blade. So I felt like maybe increasing that a little bit can just give me some advantage, because if they're EV, let's say they have like a 50% chance to survive like a Behemoth Blade Jolly Max attack. By increasing this, now the 50% becomes probably a 25%, a 30%. So it gives me overall better odds to defeat those Pokemon that are EV'd for a Jolly Max attack Sasha. That was the idea behind this. I decided to increase attack 4 points because factoring Intrepid Sword, which is a +1 by default, those 4 points are actually 6 factoring the Intrepid Sword boost. And then in terms of bulk, I knew that I wanted to have some bulk. I would have liked to have a little bit more, but I felt like this was at the very least what I needed to have. It allows you to survive a Cataracts Shadow Life Orb +1 Astro Barrage or Helping Hand boost. It's the same. Not +1 Helping Hand, I mean. That you survive that from a Timid Cataracts Shadow 100% of the time if it's Life Orb. I felt like that was a good benchmark to aim for. And then it also allows you obviously to survive Water Spout from Scarf Kyogre. You don't need that much investment for that. And it survives Mystic Water Spout from Timid Kyogre. It's not guaranteed, but it's like a 42% chance to die, I think. Which is, in most situations, not even like going to happen, because Kyogre needs to be full health. Because you're faster, you can just attack it, and if they have Scarf, then they don't have the Mystic Water, and if they have like Tailwind and our Mystic Water, you also have Tailwind, so realistically Kyogre is almost never going to be full power with Mystic Water when attacking you. Obviously, they can position their Kyogre for that, but I feel like it was not something that it was very likely to happen, but just in case that happened, it is like a 40% chance to die, so you are most of the times just fine. That is the Sasha spread, pretty simple, yet pretty powerful in my opinion. And then the Kyogre. Kyogre here is self-explanatory, really powerful in the range. You just want to go for water type attacks. Ideally, if you have Tailwind, it's even better. What if you add Helping Hand to the equation? That's even better. So that's why the Whimsicott was picked instead of Tornadoes, but I'm going to explain that in a moment. Kyogre has max speed, Initially, I wanted to go like straightforward max, but then I felt like probably just giving a little bit of bulk to this Kyogre can be helpful. And this 28 HP and 12 defense is to survive a Jolly max attack player off from Zacian. That's it. I felt like that was an okay benchmark to hit. I did consider maybe increasing the bulk a little bit to like defense to like 76 or 84 defense to have a very favorable roll to survive Behemoth Layer from Zacian 2 times, so like make it a 3-hit KO, or a good roll to be a 3-hit KO. But then I was like, you have Intimidate, it's gonna require a lot. For now, let's just use this player off benchmark. I think that's probably fine. And then just put leftover and special attack. That was my idea behind it. Self-explanatory, Kyogre. I wanted to go max speed, and even though I have Tailwind, I wanted to go max speed because that way you can outspeed things when you are not with Tailwind. One of the things that I really like about this kind of teams is to have the flexibility to decide when I want to go for Tailwind, when I don't want to go for Tailwind, just Airstream, or just not even Airstream at some points. So I feel like having the team, it just allows me to have more control of what I wanted to do. And yeah, Modest would have been nice to increase the damage output, but I felt the speed was probably better for most cases. Outspeeding mons that were not max speed, the Kyogre probably wouldn't outspeed. And also it allows you to outspeed max speed Venusaur in Tailwind, so you can go for like an Ice Beam or something if they have their Sun in your Tailwind, or if they don't have Sun and you have Rain, then you outspeed naturally. So that was a little bit the idea, and also for like potential speed ties against other Kyogres, I felt like Timid was probably fine. Incineroar can be EV'd in a lot of different ways. I decided to go this way. Let me explain this really fast. The bulk on the physical side is to survive, if I remember correctly, I aim to survive a close combat from neutral attack, so after Intimidate, Zacian, Jolly max attack. So that survives, this investment survives that, and also gives you a very decent roll to survive Sacred Sword if they're +1. Remember, +1 Sacred Sword, not the same as neutral close combat. They are 2 different scenarios, but it is a okay roll for the +1 Sacred Sword, and it's a guaranteed survival from the neutral close combat. And then I decided to go with a lot of special defense, but I also wanted to have some speed. You see this as a Throat Chop Incineroar, you might think like, oh, Throat Chop Incineroar should be fast, like very fast. I have used very fast Incineroars in the past. I know how to use this guy. I have even used like Jolly Max Turbo Incineroar at some point in Series 10. It was really good. I've used a lot of different speed benchmarks on Incineroar, but I felt for this team, why would you want to go fast on a Throat Chop Incineroar? I think most of you, if you are competitive players, you should know the answer pretty well, is to outspeed other Incineroars, to have the option to Throat Chop them first before they parting shot you, because Throat Chop blocks the parting shot or snarls. I felt like that was not necessary here because I have a Kyogre. So Kyogre just scares away most Incineroars. Obviously your opponent can still bring Incineroar, but just the fact that Kyogre is here is going to be like a red flag for them. But I still want it to be decently fast. I mean, this is not like crazy fast or something, it's just 44 speed, but allowed me to speed creep a little bit those Incineroars that had like 20, 28, 36 speed. That was like the idea. And also making sure that in Tailwind you outspeed base 100. You do outspeed because they hit 167 like Zapdos, Charizard, and all you need for that is 84. So I speed creep that basically 85 to 86. And I also, sometimes when making EV spreads, you have to negotiate with yourself. Like, I wanted to also aim for some special cogs. At the very least, you have to survive Life or Max Wake from Venusaur. That's, in my opinion, mandatory in a Kyogre team. Because you do want Incineroar to be able to help Kyogre against Venusaur, so the opponent could try to get rid of the Incineroar with like Life or Max Quake, so you need to survive that. This spread does that pretty well. Like, you survive that easily. Like, I think Life Orb Max Quake from Modest Kyogre should do around like 92-93% to you at most. But also in the Weather War, they sometimes have Charizard, and you might think like, oh yeah, but you have Kyogre, like Charizard shouldn't do much. I have used Charizard in the past against Kyogre teams. I know that if you position the Sun, like you gain your Weather, Charizard can be a huge problem to like Kyogre teams. So I've been in the other side of their road, so I know how that can be played. Obviously, it depends on how experienced the opponent is, but I wanted to cover for that a little bit more. So I aim for this 140 special defense with a careful nature to be able to have a very good role to survive Life Orb Max Airstream in the Sun from Charizard that is based off Hurricane. If I remember correctly, that Airstream was like a 31% chance to outgo this Incineroar. So you have, in other words, like a 70% chance to survive that, which can be huge if you need Incineroar to survive something, to parting shot and bring back the Kyogre and win the Weather War. I feel like that was fine. Like, obviously I would have liked to guarantee that, but if you guarantee that, you need to take out EVs from elsewhere, and that's a tricky part of this, but that's the beauty of Pokemon in my opinion. So I aim for that role. These are scenarios that are probably never going to happen, but the fact that I have control of these scenarios just allows me to play differently. And that's something that I really like about Pokemon, that I feel like teams are just resources that you can use, but at the end of the day, the player has to understand what the scenario asks you to do, or how you can move your pieces around and position your mons to have control of what you're aiming for. And yeah, that's like the Incineroar spread. Zapdos, just straightforward max. I feel like this guy should be max in this team. Yes, you can make a bulkier spread and whatnot. I don't think you need to aim for like 169 just for life or recoil. I think that's a myth. Like, you can have just 4 and be fine even if you have a life orb. You are taking the same recoil. If you have 166 and 169, it's going to be 16 recoil. Like, sometimes, yes, you can aim for that, but other times it's not necessary, especially if the price you're paying for that is very, very big. And decreasing the speed is impossible. You cannot decrease the speed on this guy. You need to be able to at least speed tie with Charizard or with other Zapdos. And decreasing the special attack, it's definitely debatable, but I wanted to keep this because I wanted to increase my damage output as much as possible. So I didn't feel the need to decrease or the special attack or increase like the bulk for anything, at least for now. Obviously, this always depends on the team. On a team like this, I prefer to just go max and 4 in the HP. Hurricane, Thunderbolt, Heatwave, Protect, no Weather Ball, no Ruse, no Eerie Impulse, just standard Zapdos offensive. I wanted this guy to be a killer on the matches, just to get as much damage as possible in combination with the helping hand potentially from Whimsicott. Heatwave to be able to hit things like Ferrothorn that can be annoying for Kyogre teams. That's one of the reasons also why Zapdos is really good as a Kyogre partner, besides obviously having the fully accurate Hurricanes and giving Kyogre speed boosts with Airstream. Whimsicott, one of the stars of this team. Access to Tailwind and Helping Hand was the main reason why I decided to Whimsicott instead of Tornadoes. I think Tornadoes is fine, but I personally liked more Whimsicott. And I've always wondered why Whimsicott is not that used on Kyogre teams. I do understand Hurricane, getting rid of grass types, but in a format like this with two restricteds and with all these partners the Kyogre currently has on this team, I feel like Hurricane was not needed, and I prefer to have Helping Hand to increase Kyogre, Zacian, and Zapdos damage output. That was huge, and also the fact that this thing is faster than Tornadoes, I felt like could give me an advantage in a potential mirror of Kyogre plus Tailwind, Tornadoes specifically. And because this tournament was open team sheet, I felt like Ton was really good. If I knew the Tornadoes didn't have Mental Herb or Icy Wind, I could play around that. And Ton also very useful. I learned my lesson after using Whimsicott on a Cataract Shadow team with Cotton Spore. I learned my lesson, and this guy has to have Taunt to stop shenanigans from Prankster Thunderous or setup mons like Ferrothorn and whatnot, or Amoonguss even. I feel like Taunt was just so good to not put in this team once again. And then finally, Ferrothorn, Leftovers, Iron Barbs, Body Press, Iron Defense, no Leech Seed. I decided to change Leech Seed for Power Whip because I expected to face lots of Kyogres and also maybe a bunch of Seismitoads, and I did face a bunch of Seismitoads, and also mainly because of Gastrodon. This is a Kyogre team, so having answers to Gastrodon is really good because obviously Gastrodon checks Kyogre, and Zacian doesn't enjoy facing Gastrodon. Yes, I do have Play Rough on this Zacian, but it's still not going to be an OHKO, and Gastrodon can have Screen Support or Intimidate, so it can be annoying. So having a way to just one-shot Gastrodon was, in my opinion, very valuable for this team. So I've put Power Whip. Sacrificing Leech Seed, initially was something that I did consider if it was worth it or not. But to be honest, I had used lots of different like iron defense body press mons now on YouTube, like making this monotype that I've been doing for a while, that I have used them, and none of them had lead sheet. So I felt like I didn't need lead sheet. I knew there were going to be some matchups, especially like against Palkia, where lead sheet would have been so good to have that recovery. But I was like willing to like make the trade-off here, and no regrets. Power Whip was huge, and the matches I brought Ferrothorn to. There were some matches where having lead sheet would have been probably better, but I don't think Power Whip was like a bad decision or something. I think it was pretty good. I actually Dynamaxed a Ferrothorn on a top cut match against a Japanese guy. I'm gonna probably upload all my run on YouTube in the next coming days, so watch out for that if you want to see those matches with my commentary. It's gonna be in Spanish probably, but yeah, you can still watch the games. And max HP Ferrothorn, I decided to aim for the bump or breakpoint on the defense, which is here 87, and then 87. I usually like even numbers, so I decided to increase this to 88 because body press uses your defense. So one more point on a mon that is going to increase this stat with iron defense can mean 2. Like if you have 87 and you go for an iron defense, your defense is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, 374. If you increase this to 88, your defense is going to be 376. So it's a 2 increase instead of 1. And if you get another iron defense, it's going to be also more increase because of that, and you get to +6, it's going to be even more. So I felt like one more point was fine, and I put 20 speed. You might ask yourself, like, why do you have speedy beats on your Ferrothorn? This is mainly for the mirror, guys. I remember I did lose a Ferrothorn endgame because my opponent's Ferrothorn was faster back in the day, not in this tournament, back in the day. So after that experience, I decided to put some speed on my Ferrothorns if I don't have Trick Room. I could have put a little bit more. I was thinking maybe 28, 36, but I feel like for now 20 is fine because I also have Tailwind. And with this, like if you Tailwind, like funny enough, you hit 86, which is going to outspeed most Incinerators because most Incinerators have only 20, 28, which is going to make them to have like 82, 83, 84. And then Ferrothorn outspeeds them. It's not like you need that, but it was a fun thing to have sometimes in mind. I did outspeed, I remember 1 or 2 Incinerators when I had this too, for some reason, I think. Maybe 1. But yeah, and the special defense was just left over to have like a little bit of special bulk, so you are not like extremely focused only on physical defense, but also some special defense. That's it, guys. This was a very long video with the Spanish part and the English part. Thank you so much for being here. And if you guys, what you guys are waiting, probably this is going to be the rental code for the team. If you guys want to try this out, there it is. This is the rental code for the team, guys. This is how I called it, Helping Hand Dogfish. This is a rental code. This is going to be available for a couple of weeks, probably not more than that, because I usually have to upload new teams for my YouTube content. So unfortunately, we only have 6 slots to upload teams. So make sure that you get this immediately before this team is not available anymore. But yeah, this is the rental code. Feel free to use it. Feel free to try it. It's also the Pokepaste in the description down below if you want to try it on Showdown. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Paul Reese, Pokemon 2018 World Champion, and until next time, peace. Thank you so much. See ya.